get the package I sent down to the station?
Package?
You got it. I know you did.
Oh, you sent me a present, Chet?
See, I couldn't decide whether to use a timer or not. Guess you just have to find that out when you open it.
Wait a minute, hold on. You're telling me you sent me a bomb in the mail?
A talk show host plays a dangerous game with his listeners and himself in talk radio, one of 5 new holiday season movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is called Talk Radio, the story of a repellent but mesmerizing young man who hosts a late-night talk radio show in Dallas, insulting and challenging his guests. Eric Bogosian, who co-wrote this story and performed it first on stage in New York, is perversely compelling as talk show host Barry Champlain, who gets nutty calls and venomous mail.
Now, all different kinds of people live here. Foreigners, people with accents. Are they clean? Are they sanitary?
Why don't you ask one of them?
Well, sure, that would be a nice idea to just go to somebody's house and knock on their door. But what if a serial murderer lived there? What if Ted Bundy lived there? What if he was just sitting inside watching television, eating potato chips, and I came to the door? Why, you just come right on in here, Denise, he'd say.
Barry is also confrontational with his boss, Alec Baldwin, who wants to tone down Barry and make his show a national talk fest.
What do you think you're doing in here? Changing the world? This is a talk show, Barry, and you are a talk show host. Alan does the drive time, Jerry does the home handyman stuff, Sheila does the shrink stuff, Sid does the financial stuff, and you hang up on people. That's your job.
Talk radio also takes us inside Barry's life away from the microphone. He's not much happier away from the show, talking with his ex-wife, played by Ellen Greene. He still loves her.
Barry, what do you want me to do? You want me to just fall in love with you again? Is that what this is about?
I don't want you to do anything. I mean, you're here. That's all I'm happy that you're here.
I don't know what, Barry. I have to go at the end of the day or tomorrow, and I can't keep coming back and forth.
I like watching movies about tough characters like Barry Champlain. He's cut from the same angry mold as Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. He has his private demons. He wants to do the right thing, but he often acts hostily. It's just one life, but this character in this film seems so much more real than most of the would-be characters I see on the screen. Talk Radio was made by Platoon director Oliver Stone, and he continues his record of making tough, thoughtful films.
I liked it, too. I thought it was really claustrophobic in the way it locks in that studio that has those windows that look out on the high-rises of the city. So there were times, for example, when that caller says, you're looking at that box right now, I know you are, and you think he's looking at this guy through a sniper scope. I mean, it was really dramatic. And the entire undercurrent of the movie is chilling because this guy is almost reaching out for trouble. He's almost egging on his listeners.
At the same time, the listeners are fascinating because it's sort of all the lonely people, or at least all the hateful people, both categories call in, and so you get this feeling of this just basic unrest and bile backing up in the throat of America, and it's fascinating in that regard. I've talked to a lot of people who've seen the film and have not liked it because they couldn't like this character. I don't think you're supposed to like Barry Champlain. I think you're just supposed to be interested in a guy who is saying what's on his mind, is totally screwed up emotionally, but has a kernel of truth to what he's saying.
As a general rule, I wonder if you'd agree with this.
I know what you're going to say.
It's more likely that a movie is going to be boring if it's about characters you like.
You're supposed to like.
They're supposed to like than if it's about characters that you're not supposed to like.
I agree.
Okay, next movie. Our next movie is the story of a descent into a different kind of hell. A hell reserved only for the very, very, very bad movies. The name of the film is Hellbound Hellrasier 2, and I guess it's more or less a continuation of the original hit film Hellraiser. Actually, though, it plays more like a compact disc than it does like a movie, especially if you have one of those CDs that you can program in any order. The scenes in this movie could also be played in any order, and it wouldn't make much difference. In the film, 2 adolescent girls are trapped inside some kind of an insane maze populated by the most horrifying figures out of their imagination. Nothing makes any sense to them, or especially to us.
Kirsty, so eager to play, so reluctant to admit it. Perhaps you're teasing us.
I've come for my father!
But he is in his own hell, child.
Throughout the movie, bizarre characters appear and disappear more or less at random, just as they would in a dream.
It wanted souls, and I brought you.
The nightmares seem connected to a sort of supernatural Rubik's Cube, which when you twist it the wrong way, sends you on a toboggan slide into hell. I love the names of the characters in this movie, by the way. They're named Kirsty and Tiffany. I love them because this is another one of those movies where they say the names way too often, over and over again. Kirsty, Tiffany, Tiffany, Kirsty, Kirsty, Tiffany, over and over, just until the audience is almost tempted to start shouting Tiffany and Kirsty back at the screen, if only to break the monotony.
Or to continue it.
Or to continue the monotony. Good point. The problem here is that there is no discernible beginning, middle, or end to this nightmare, just a series of disconnected and gruesome scenes. It's the kind of film where the theater doesn't need to print the running times. They don't have to put that in the newspaper because you can walk in anywhere and more or less the same experience. The technical credits are good, but I really think they should have gone to the trouble of providing us with a story.
I want to focus on one word that you mentioned, which is gruesome. I mean, this film could be actually titled Skinned Alive. I mean, you see enough blood and bare the sublayer of skin you know, in a butcher shop. I mean, it's fairly repellent as these kinds of things go. We're sort of neared to it. We see this stuff all the time, but at the same time, buckets of blood.
It does set some kind of a record. You know, images like this in medieval times were the stuff of Hieronymus Bosch paintings, and people were absolutely horrified. Now it's just fodder for public entertainment, and kids go in and look at people flayed alive and dripping their organs all over the place, and they just laugh at it. No images seem to have any power anymore.
No, these are repeated quite often. Coming up next, we'll step up in class, The Accidental Tourist, starring William Hurt as an uptight travel writer fearful of love.
Is that your home phone or your business?
Both. Why? What difference does it make?
Accidental Tourist, and it stars William Hurt as a travel writer who specializes in writing guides for travelers who don't really want to travel, like business travelers who want the same American comforts they're used to wherever they go. Hurt's line of work describes his personal style, too. He's trapped in an unhappy marriage with Kathleen Turner, made unhappy because of the death of their child, but he doesn't want to rock the boat.
To a second honeymoon.
Second honeymoon.
18 more years together.
18.
Well, would you say it was 17?
No, it's 18, all right.
Well, I mean, because we sort of skipped this past year.
It'd still be 18.
You think so?
I consider this last year just another stage in our marriage. Don't worry, it's 18.
Into his life, a little wackiness falls in the form of an eccentric dog trainer played by Gina Davis from The Fly. She's aggressive as Hurt is hesitant.
I could train him in no time not to bite other people. You think about it and give me a call, Muriel. Remember? Muriel Pritchett. Let me give you my card.
Oh, well, I'll bear that in mind. Thank you very much.
Or just call for no reason. Call and talk.
Talk?
Sure. Talk about Edward, his problems. Talk about anything. Pick up the phone and just talk.
This movie alternates between emotional pain and amusing quirkiness, such as William Hurt's oddball siblings who also live in an uptight manner.
Now I need M's or N's. Anything starting with those?
Then how about these noodles? N for noodles. P for pasta?
E for elbow macaroni. You might have passed those up earlier, Porter.
Rose. Rose. It seems Edward's given me a little sort of nip.
Oh, me?
How did it happen? Well, it was an accident, that's all, but I think I need an antiseptic. You need a tetanus shot, too. You need to get rid of that dog. He didn't mean any harm. Takes your hand off at the elbow and he means no harm?
There are laughs in The Accidental Tourist, but at the center of the story are fragile people with breaking hearts. And it's this curious combination of laughter and private tears that make this one of the year's very best films. William Hurt solidifies his position as one of our finest actors, and Gina Davis really comes into her own as the sweet but daffy dog trainer. I really like this movie, The Accidental Tourist.
I liked it, too. You called it one of the best movies of the year. Next week, we're doing our show on the 10 best movies of the year, and it's certainly on my list. This is a precious, wonderful, one-of-a-kind movie, a masterpiece of tone. It was directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who also directed Hurt in Body Heat and The Big Chill. He understands this actor in the way that he can do so much with so little. Here's a guy who's all closed into himself, and during the course of the movie, ever so excruciatingly slowly, he's able to start living his life again. And the funny thing is that all of that sadness and all of that pain is told in a movie where half the time you're laughing. That's what I can't understand, is how it could be so sad and so funny at the same time.
Well, actually, I was more saddened by the film than I was laughing at it, because my heart was really breaking for the William Hurt character. You can see in his very special way the pain that's inside this guy. And also in Kathleen Turner's role. She's getting, I think, second billing in the film, and hers is a smaller part. It's Gina Davis who provides the life and the wackiness of this picture, and it's a wonderful comic performance that she throws up on the screen. And again, these are fascinating characters. The balance between people that are living controlled lives when they want to break loose. I mean, this film gets you emotionally.
It's a film for grown-ups. You know, it reminded me a little bit, in a very strange way, of Terms of Endearment, another movie that was funny and also very truthful at the same time.
This one is actually a little harder biting. That's a more full-throated picture, Terms of Endearment.
Good film. Coming up next, James Woods stars in The Boost, the story of a life in the fast lane and a head-on collision with cocaine.
Tell me what
Woods. And a funny thing happened to me in the first few minutes of this movie. All James Woods had to do was simply appear on the screen, and I started to smile to myself, because this actor has the uncanny ability to almost instantly create the illusion that he's about to explode, maybe in anger, but also maybe in some other kind of emotion, or maybe in some kind of a con. With Woods, you never know. No other contemporary actor projects such a strong feeling of unpredictability. Look at him in this scene. Woods has invited a complete stranger to have dinner with himself and his wife, but as the middle of the meal approaches, his friendliness turns into hostility.
Don't worry about money, Lenny, just like everybody else.
But you got some backstops. You start falling down that well, you got some slats across to catch yourself. All right?
I saw a funny thing on the today. A man got on with a French horn.
You got your professor father. You got an education. You got the financial journal. You can't fall too far.
The bus driver wanted the man with the French horn to pay an extra fare because the French horn took up so much room.
My old man's an ex-printer on disability. My mother is a secretary for the Ladies Garment Workers Union.
So the man with the French horn, he said that he would play a concert for everybody instead. He did.
I got a high school education.
All the way across 86th Street. It was beautiful. I cried.
Woods plays a salesman who is going nowhere until he gets a job offer in Los Angeles. He tries to convince his wife, played by Sean Young, that this is the chance they've been waiting for.
No, maybe we're going too fast. We should just take this a step at a time.
The hell with that. You don't step through life. Teacher, may I? It goes too quick for that. You gotta leap through life.
In L.A., he strikes it rich selling leveraged tax shelters to rich investors, but then the bottom drops out of that market, and there's no way he can pay his bills.
Everybody in town thinks I'm a firecracker. And my own wife still thinks I'm a bum.
Lenny, I think you're a genius. I just don't want you to feel like you're on a treadmill having to make more and more money to pay for things we bought that we don't really need.
Trying to recapture his elusive self-confidence, Woods turns to cocaine, and he hooks his wife, too. They lose all their possessions, and they hit bottom quickly and desperately. The question is, can they turn their lives around?
We gotta get out of this goddamn town. Out of the hustle, and the deals, the jolts, and the coke, and the goddamn pain.
The Boost is one of the most horrifying portrayals of drug addiction that I've ever seen, maybe because James Woods is so good at playing the cocaine mood swings, from manic self-confidence to deep despair and depression. We see his entire personality change in this movie, and he turns against everyone, even his wife, even himself, and literally he cannot function at all without cocaine. An earlier movie this year, Clean and Sober, starred Michael Keaton as an alcoholic and drug addict who tried to clean up his act, but The Boost is not about recovery. It's about what it's like to hit bottom and live there with your entire personality held hostage to a chemical. James Woods is the ideal actor for this role because he gives it such an urgency, such an intensity that we can almost physically feel his restlessness and his unhappiness. And Sean Young is very effective, too, as a wife who also experiments with self-destruction, but simply cannot keep pace with the personal hell created by her husband.
Well, Roger, I would say that I agree with you about the first two-thirds of the movie. When there is the setup of James Woods, and I have the same feeling for him as an actor, we've discussed him many times and how good he is. The beginning of this movie, the setup and his preparation for the cocaine swing, I thought was fascinating. There's a great performance by Stephen Hill as the older real estate salesman, tax shelter salesman, who lures him from New York to L.A. for the good times. And this guy turns out to be a lot more smart about controlling one's life and recognizing recognizing that things will ebb and flow in any kind of business. He's sort of father to this guy, and then, of course, Woods turns on him when things bust out, and then Woods' life busts apart. At that point, I found the film predictable, and I hate to say that because Woods is so good, but I thought that the descent into cocaine I had seen before.
Gene, the problem is the descent into cocaine is predictable. It is predictable. There is no way to make it unpredictable because for people like that, once they start, it's straight downhill, and they're looking up all the way because the cocaine tells them it's great all the way down.
Yes, but Roger, even you said in your review that this was the best example of this that you'd ever seen. So you're finding gradations in the way it's portrayed, and I'm telling you this isn't the best that I've ever seen.
What is the best?
Nothing comes to mind. I'll tell you that Clean and Sober, to me, was a more interesting film about drug addiction, but on the point of this being the best, no, I thought this was of a piece, of the same kind.
I think it's a very good movie. Coming up next, the story of a little boy who has to defend himself and his father in a strange, tough land. That's why they call him Pelle the Conqueror.
Our next film is called Pelle the Conqueror, the grand prize winner at this year's Cannes Film Festival, starring Max von Sydow as a Swedish farmer who in the 19th century takes his son to Denmark in search of a better life. But instead of finding an easy life, they end up working for a dishonest landowner. The living conditions are extremely primitive, and the boy is subject to abuse from other youngsters working on the estate, in part because he's Swedish and a crude foreigner to the Danes. And that is the great Max von Sydow as young Pelle's father. They share their miserable life together with a son, oddly enough, more resilient than the dispirited father. Von Sydow's degradation is authentic, as is most everything about this period movie, which convincingly takes us to a hard time, not really all that long ago.
Du for gammeldags. Skal jeg have en mand, så skal han være farlig. Du er ikke farlig mere.
Pelle the Conqueror is a film that celebrates the peasant without making him a saint. The film is beautifully shot, and after it's over, we think we've seen a living chapter in history. It's a fine film. I complain that the hardest kinds of pictures to do are period dramas because frequently they don't look dirty enough. The people talk in a natural way. This film felt authentic, like that great, what was it, great double picture?
The Immigrants in the New Land. Yeah, but I didn't think this film came anywhere
Well, that's a better
being
film.
as good as The Immigrants.
But would you recommend this one?
You know, it's a real close call for me. I'm not sure I would, and I'll tell you why. For the same reason that you didn't like The Boost. This movie was really predictable from beginning to end. I mean, once every character is set up, you know more or less what's going to happen to them. We've seen these kinds of pictures before in which little boys grow up in ways that are sometimes painful because of the evil adults in their lives and so forth. It's kind of Dickinsonian. And I don't know, it just seemed to me as if it was moving very slowly and it took a very long time to get to the end. Max von Sydow was terrific in the role, but I wasn't really challenged to get involved and engaged.
What about the look of the picture? Had you seen a picture?
The picture looked great. Picture looked great. It was wonderfully photographed.
When you say it looks great, though, I don't want to say that it looks spectacular, but it looked bleak. I mean, I guess
it was very, very well photographed. If you wanted me to only judge the photography, I'd put my thumb up for that.
The photography has an emotional character all of its own, though. For me, it's fascinating to see, again, I say not that long ago, I mean, we're talking a little over a century ago, about really hard times, and I found that instructive.
Well, the jury of the Cannes Film Festival agreed with you. So you're not totally alone. Even
I don't know if I make it a grand prize.
Program.
I wouldn't make it a grand prize winner, but I just think it was a solid picture.
Okay, so you don't agree with them. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. We both voted thumbs up for Talk Radio, the harrowing story of a self-destructive disc jockey's long journey into night. 2 big thumbs way down, though, for Hellbound Hellrasier 2, one of the worst movies of this or name your year. 2 thumbs up for The Accidental Tourist. It'll be on our Best 10 list with great performances by William Hurt and Gina Davis. A split decision on The Boost, the movie about drug addiction with James Woods. I voted up. Gene has his thumb pointed down. And another split decision on Pelle the Conqueror, the Cannes Grand Prize winner set in 19th century Denmark. Gene liked the period look of the picture so much that he felt he could really feel it. I liked the photography too, but not enough to vote thumbs up. And so the ones that we really like the most are Accidental Tourist and talk radio like The Boost.
Okay, but next time we'll be back with our annual review of the 10 best movies of the year. We already gave you a taste of one, The Accidental Tourist. We'll give you 2 lists for the price of one. And remember, the price on this show is free. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Raisinets and Goobers are playing everywhere, starring plump, juicy raisins.